Tune in every Tuesday for High Society with your host, David Malmo-Levine, here on Pot TV.
Wow, the media friendly. A little late, but better late than never.
Question period. No question. I'll be like Jean Chrétien, I'll start running. No more question. Pot is always bad. We cannot legalize it. No more question. Let's hope there's room for the happy, hungry, and relaxed people in Canada. Yes.
Good luck, Dave. We'll let it go. Emery?
Stay there. Stay with him. Yeah, there'll be a constable up there and they'll help you. All right, thanks.
Have you ever smoked marijuana?
There's an official spokesperson for us. All right.
Okay.
You checking your camera now, or?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I just wish many people in Santa suits.
Contributing money.
Oh, I've had a vested interest in getting to the Supreme Court of Canada. This is really the first recreational marijuana legalization case ever put before the Supreme Court since the charters brought here in 1982, so it's pretty significant to me. This is the culmination of all our work, really, at Cannabis Culture Magazine, Pot TV. All the money I raise goes to efforts like this throughout North America, but this is the most significant one.
Why is it so significant for you?
Well, a positive result from the High Court will afford us unusual protection for marijuana smokers who have been persecuted for 35, 40 years pretty diligently by the federal government with no abating. There's not been a let-up in marijuana convictions, marijuana arrests for 30 years. It's been very consistent, and we're looking to the court to remedy that in a rather permanent way.
And why was it so important for you to financially back this?
Oh, because there's nobody else in our movement that's really a capitalist who can raise money for projects like this. So we typically give $250,000 to $500,000 away each year to legal projects throughout Canada and the United States to get to various courts or ballot initiatives. At least $150,000 a year is given to lawyers to get people out of jail, mostly in the United States, for marijuana-related offenses and what have you.
And what's your business? Where's your money come from?
Well, $3 million a year we sell in marijuana seeds. I'm the world's largest marijuana seed dealer. So in a wonderful juxtaposition, I take all this money that people send me for these illegal seeds, which I distribute around the world, and then we use that money to subvert the democratic process in the right direction.
I'd say that the United States, when they're so concerned about us legalizing.
Well, the United States isn't concerned. The federal government of the United States is concerned. But George Bush won't be president forever, and the American people probably could stand to learn a lot from the Canadian way of life, much as that might offend some American chauvinists. But ultimately, I think the Supreme Court is going to demonstrate a more compassionate, tolerant, and modern and humane view of marijuana legislation, and that the United States should imitate us, rather than we be asked to follow a rather brutal and failed policy that they're enacting.
Do you think, given the political climate now, with all the various committee reports out there calling for decriminalization, the Minister of Justice himself suggesting that decriminalization is just around the corner, the court's not going to be under a lot of pressure to intervene here, to act?
Well, unfortunately, you're right in the sense that the court has already consulted with our lawyers in wanting to ask them if they want an adjournment to April after we see the legislation the minister's going to bring, because, of course, if the minister gives a remedy, the Supreme Court will defer to that. So we're asking the Supreme Court to offer a remedy. We think the Parliament is going to offer an inadequate remedy, so we want to proceed today.
What did you feel about what happened in there? Was it fair?
Well, you know, it depends on whose side you take. I mean, if you look at it from the court's point of view, you can't really blame them too much, because they're always getting dumped on by people saying they're too judicially active and stuff. And So they want to, instead of deciding something and then being criticized by the public for being too judicially active, they say, well, let's hear what Parliament or the government has to say first before we consider the point. So you can see their point of view. It's not certainly our position, because we've become cynical about government statements, going back to 1970. And we're not expecting anything significant from the government that's going to change the issues in this appeal. But that's the position of the court, and we're stuck with it.
Because what seems to be happening is that Parliament is going to give us the lowest possible bar in decrim. We're going to have to come here to prove that even that low standard is not justifiable.
That's right, and we'll have to, of course, maintain that if they no longer threaten liberty because imprisonment is no longer available, then there is still authority that simply being charged, the stresses and strains and costs and so on of being put through the criminal justice system still affects the security of your person, which still engages Section 7. But obviously it's not as strong as when liberty is affected.
What about the trafficking angle? Separate issue completely?
Separate issue, yeah. It introduces a whole additional factor in terms of impact on others and involving others as opposed to just yourself.
And I am so fucking ready to go. I would be so on right now, but that's not a consideration. But it bothers me.
You should have said that.
I know. Well, you know what? No one really knows that what's going on here isn't so much about principle and politics. It's about pragmatism. We want to proceed because we don't have deep pockets. Mm-hmm. These are very poor people to represent. They can't come back to Ottawa 2-3 more times. So pragmatically, that's why we want to proceed. Pragmatically, they don't want to proceed because it's Friday the 13th, and it's a voluminous record, and there's not really enough time to deal with it. And so maybe they should wait a little bit. So we all mask it by saying, we have certain positions. Right. But the reality is, pragmatically, it seemed to be an inconvenient day to proceed. And in fairness, and I want to make sure that this is understood because I'm not criticizing the court. In fairness, the court was put into a very difficult position, and I do not fault them for adjourning the matter.
How much do you think it's cost so far?
I have no idea, but all I know is Paul and I don't get paid to do this. We do this because we believe in the issue. But you can just imagine that it's probably cost people in the hundreds of thousands, and probably cost the government hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this, go through all levels.
What's the story of your posting, Chris?
Well, it just shows how they made these promises before I was even born, and now I am here in court 30 years later, and still making the same promises. So.
Well done, good crop.
Yeah.
Well, it looks what the government promised was that instead of getting a criminal record, we're going to be punished in some other way, and I think none of the appellants here wish to be punished in any way for possession or trafficking or cultivation. So I think they're just passing the buck, and they're scared of addressing the issue, or else we come back later, the government will probably have not done anything, or else slightly changed their method of punishing us unjustly, and we'll be right back here again with the same complaints, the exact same complaints.
Who do you say is passing the buck?
Well, it just after 10 times the government's promised to decrim or legalize and failed, and after the Ontario Court of Appeal has promised that the laws would evaporate in 1 year, and that didn't happen. Even Jimmy Carter promised decrim and didn't produce. So I think it's just kind of powerful people have a habit of